Okay, hi. Thanks for coming to this workshop. I am Jessica Pidoux, presenting with Jacob Gursky here. We are going to try to do a very practical workshop if you have phones with you. You have phones with you? Okay. And of course, if you want to try out what we propose. We want to do a workshop on hands-on recovering your personal data. And we're going to be working more on dating apps, but you can try it out with other apps as we're going to show you, okay? So first, just to introduce also why I'm here. I am the director of the NGO Personal Data I.O., where I work with Jacob. It's an NGO that it's actually it's the main expertise is on exercising data access rights. And I'm going to explain you what that is. We develop tools, workshops on data literacy and how to recover your personal data. Our collective is Dating Privacy, and the first step we want you to do is that you go on this website, digipower.academy/experience. These are open access, free access tools that we have developed with our technical partner, Estia, and the tools that you see there correspond to every app that you might be using. We have dating apps too. We're going to focus on the dating apps, but if you're not on the dating apps, you can try out one of these social medias or any other platform. The tools that are developed there are going to help you processing the data that you're going to recover on the browser of your phone or your local computer. We don't take your data, basically. It's only processed in your local browser. So after you finish or when you close the app, the tool, we're not going to save anything. So have you managed to go to the... It's with S, sorry. Says okay, it's experiences with an S, and if you want to try out the specifics on dating, you have to add a / either her or either Tinder.
Does it also work with deactivated Tinder accounts? With deactivated Tinder accounts?
Yes. Because what I'm going to show you first is how to recover your data. So either if you have an active account or you don't use it anymore, but for example, even you uninstalled the app, your account still exists on their database, so you can recover your data. Yeah.
If Tinder blocks your account, you can also still recover your data. Don't ask me how I know that.
Okay, so you select the app you want to recover your data from. If it's, for example, Her, when you click on the icon Her, you're going to have a text there. It says click here to request the private data that has been collected about you.
I need to add a detail about this because I was experimenting with it earlier this week. Buried in Her's privacy policy, they say you can't recover your data unless you've connected an email to your account. So if you've never added an email to your Her account, it might just silently fail. So make sure that you add that email in your settings if you want to use this.
If you're recovering for Her. If you're recovering your data for Tinder, it's the same. Or for the other apps, you have a click here link. And then this will lead you to the steps one by one how to recover your data, right? So it's basically I'm showing you where to go to get the tutorials because every app has a different way to recover your data.
And if you share this with someone else later, my experience with Tinder is that this link only works on a mobile phone. It won't take you to the tutorial on your desktop.
Okay. It will take you a bit of time, and it's not as straightforward. This is one of the main challenges on recovering your data. It's depends a lot on the strategies, the privacy policies that the companies are developing. Sometimes it's easier than others to recover your data. Okay. I'm going to keep going while you do this, or after we can come and help you a bit more, okay? Why apps are offering this option? Every person has the right to get a copy of their data and to know what companies are doing with it. So that's why we're doing this workshop, because there are few persons that know about their rights. These are data access rights under the GDPR. This is the European law for the General Data Protection Regulation. And it's the main instrument that is allowing us today to govern our own personal data. So you have specifically the right to access your data and the right to data portability. So it means you can say to any company, I want a copy of all the information that you are processing about me, and I want it in a readable format that is machine readable, human readable, understandable. You can ask this, so that's why you're doing these tutorials, because thanks to these rights, and thanks to the enforcement of the EU GDPR, companies are creating these portals where you can download your data. We can talk about it. It's a bit problematic sometimes because they give the minimum data, and then you have to ask more. But at least it's something. And actually, it's helping to gain visibility, transparency about how these apps are working. While you're waiting for your data, it can take, by law, up to 30 days. But on Tinder, it can take, I don't remember, it's like a few hours.
Yeah, much faster.
Sometimes I have done it and it takes 30 minutes. With Her, how long did you?
Well, Her I requested earlier this week and I still haven't received any data. So that one's on the 30-day timeline.
Yeah. So the idea is that you start the process now and we're going to show you what you can do after, okay? Some key statistics about Tinder. We're going to be focusing a lot, as I said, on Tinder and Her. On Tinder, according to their financial report, last year we had on average almost 10 million paying users. But they are losing 7% since last year. Some hypotheses are people are getting sick of dating apps, or some others are moving to social networks to date, on Instagram, for example. We don't have the total number of active users. They don't say it. But they say that the revenue per payer is $16.70 in the last quarter of 2024. So basically, if you're a Tinder user and you pay an account, this is what you make as profit for them. And the direct revenue they did the last quarter of 2024 was 476 million. So just these numbers to say it's a big company, it's a big industry, it's very popular. It's present in 190 countries almost, and but we're missing information on how it works on Europe. They don't say it actually, and many information is not clear at all. I found online on other websites some statistics that we have to take carefully what they say, but it gives an idea. In 2023, there were 75 million monthly active users without knowing what is really active. Some people delete the app, or they are active, they have an account, but they never come in, etc. 60% of Tinder users are under 35 years old, and 3/4 of Tinder users are male. And I am going to refer often to male and female because apps are mainly using this binary category for their matching process, even though some apps even Tinder, for example, ask gender identity, sexual orientation. They're always after going to have the option, show me men or women, for example. So in the Netherlands, what I found is that the first quarter in 2024, Tinder was the most popular app used. And they were making 2.5 million in revenue, the Dutch, for Tinder, and had approximately 247,000 active users. So it's quite popular. What we know also, some statistics in the United States, is that it's mainly the people between 18 and 35 that are using Tinder. It means the older you get, less chances you have on Tinder. And it explains also some frustration of people that cannot find a match if they're older than 45, for example. And one article survey in the 2019 said that it's actually the same for the Dutch. Nearly half of Dutch between 18 and 35 are active on dating apps. And another general statistics about the demographics is that mainly male are active on this app. So we find more men than women. Women have more choice. It's all relative, of course, but it also means men have more competition among them. This is why I'm telling this, is because I talk a lot about algorithms and their agency, but I also want to emphasize that the population in the location where you're using the app and the pool which you're part of, if you're in this younger range or in this older range, is gonna set the first condition of your probability to match, right? After all, this is a market you're entering. And it's working with statistics, with algorithms, with mathematical formulas, and your probability to match depends on who is in the app registered, even before declaring preferences like in swiping. Of course, the app can balance the sample. They can favor diversity, but we're not sure they are doing it. About Her, it was more difficult to find statistics. On their website, they say they have more than 15 million active members in more than 114 countries. I saw it's also active in the Netherlands, and it's an app marketed as for lesbian, LGBTQ+, and trans dating. So, what role plays your data on privacy, on dating apps functioning? Well, I put it here as your data is the food for the dating apps, if you want. Your data is collected in the app, by the app, and according to the profiles that are predefined for you. And I emphasize these profiles predefined for you. You might have options, but these options are predefined by them. And they're always standard categories, human choices that decided that this category, as let's decide that is women or men, let's decide that is, for example, on Grindr, the size of your penis, all these categories are predefined. So it means, this is another important information, it means that when you're going to make a match, these matches that you're making depend on how these profiles are predefined, okay? So your data fits these algorithmic systems that say, your data says who you are and who are you looking for. Often when you register, you say, this person, this tall, this body shape, and I want somebody like this, like this, like this. 10 kilometers away, between 20 and 25, right? So the data is the food for the dating apps in the sense, give me who you are, tell me who you are, tell me who you want, and I will give you something. And what I show with some colleagues is that these profiles are actually spreading social norms that correspond to heterosexuality. And we analyzed more than 14 apps, and Her was included there. And we saw a reduction of the representation of the body for women. And we call it digitamorphosis because it's how do we describe in a numerical format, also with categories. We have numeric representation and categorical representation. How do we describe the women's body? And what we found is that it's always described between 1 or 8 variables, and it's usually the upper body only that is described. For some apps, only height is asked. For other apps, the height, the body shape, and the weight is asked. And the third class that we identify is apps that ask also for the hair, the eyes, and the bra size. And as I said, you have that there. This is a question, like what is your body shape, right, in a profile? But then the answers are also predefined. You cannot say, oh, I have nice tits. I don't know if I want to say that. No. It says, for example, on passions, the weight, you have a scale. This is an app that is for people over 50. The scale is between 40 and 200 kilos. And check this out, the difference with another app, Adopt and Meg, which is very popular in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, in France. It's targeting younger audiences, and the scale is pretty different. It's from 30 to 115. So we want super skinny women there, or we think we are modeling that these kind of women are there. This is something that is saying about how users are represented on the interfaces, and then how algorithms are going to make the matches based on this information. Okay? The hair was super important also. We analyzed it in all the apps, and especially in Adopt and Meg, Mythic Affini Badoo, Adult Friend Finder, and Casual Lounge had it very specific details, the color, but also the hairstyle. Is it wavy, curly, frizzy? And actually, it has a history. The hair has been a characteristic of female bodies to eroticize. And that's why at the end we say, well, actually we're just reproducing the norms that have been in society for heterosexual, but now in a graphical interface with coded categories. And this has a bigger impact when you're reproducing, amplifying stereotypes that exist on society on dating apps. Take away profiles predefined by apps categories, frame what kind of matches are made by algorithms. This is to say, whenever you register to an app, whenever you create a profile, you already know how your body, your personality has been represented by this company, which actually can be very different from one to another one. So we learn also to date online according to these categories. This is what I have seen in my interviews. It's like people, when they are dating, refer to these categories to describe the people they like or they don't like. For example, on OkCupid, you have a lot of questions that are asked about activism, feminism, and then it can be this as a reference for the daters to say, I like or I don't like this person. So these are references, but are predefined by the companies. And apps at the end perform a reductionism of social experiences in our bodies, because after all, it's a computing system. It has technical constraints. It needs memory, it needs to work fast on our phones, it depends on the network, on the Wi-Fi. So it doesn't embrace the diversity that we have in the offline social world. So I have said they can actually reduce our representation of bodies. It's very limited. It doesn't favor always diversity, but dating apps can harvest massive data from different sources, and that's how also they get to profile you from different sources. They can know different things about you because the industry works under brand agglomerations. Here is one example. The Match Group owns, I think it's more than 30 apps, and in there you find Tinder, Hinge, Mythic, Plenty of Fish, OkCupid, and so. So basically the business behind all this is the same.
And I would add, each of these apps has a switch inside of it that allows it to share app data with all the other apps. And they do their best to make sure that you initiate those things through different deceptive design patterns.
So this is what is making the dating app industry so valuable, that they have sensitive data about you. Here, when you're going to these apps, you're talking about your sexuality, about your intimacy. Not other apps have this kind of data. So they enter with a great value in the data economy. The data economy, it's based on aggregating data, sharing, trading data to profile you, to profile us, and to create ads for us. And they sell spaces for ads. Thanks to this data, they can say, for example, Tinder says, well, I have a lot of people from 18 and 25, so why don't you put whatever ad young people would like. I don't know I don't have that evil thinking, but maybe Red Bull to party a lot. So they can sell to Red Bull ads in their spaces because they say, I have the young people here. And actually I saw on Bumble, they try to predict, check first with your geolocation in which university you are, and then say, okay, it's a student person. So it's a very specific category for the dating apps on how to target them. Anyway, all this data coming from different sources, from dating apps. We cross it with your Spotify because you connected your Spotify to your Tinder account or your Instagram account. So you're connected with Meta and with Spotify, and Spotify is in Sweden and Meta in the United States. And all these kind of platforms you're using, they are sharing data. It's like we are behind your dating app saying, hey, if you're Spotify, hey, look, this person is also liking on these kind of people. And I also know what kind of music is listening. So we're communicating about you behind the app while you're using the app. Then comes data brokers, another important player on this economy. They are going to get all the data and they sell it to other people. So when you're accepting the privacy policies on Tinder, you're saying, I let you send my data to Spotify, to any other company, but I also might let you resell it or give it to data brokers, where we don't know what they're going to do with it. We have lost completely control of what they're doing with our data. And what happens there is that in this big ecology of data flows, there could be malicious attacks. There could be people or companies that hack these databases, that they take it, that even other users can use your data for identity distortion, manipulation, identity theft, and so on. So it means that your data is used for other purposes than dating, that companies know more than your dating life, and your privacy matters if you don't want to take all these risks that I have mentioned there. How are we doing with the time? Good. Okay. I wanted also to talk about algorithms, because our attention today in media, in research, is a lot on algorithms. And we talk on Tinder specifically about the Elo score. Have you heard about the Elo score? It was said at some time that Tinder was using the Elo score, and this Elo score computes a number of your performance on the dating app. Like it was used to be on chess games, right? And if you're a good player, according to your moves, and so you can have a higher score. But we never saw if this was right or not on Tinder, but it was a big buzz. We talk about the desirability score. At the end, I want to say, yes, there is a score. Because computer programs score often people to be able to match you. You're put on a distance according to others. But this is a geometrical space when you enter on computer systems, and you need numbers. Your body, your qualities cannot be represented as subjective, qualitative, as we can do in the offline world. So when you enter any app, any computer system, you're going to be translated into numbers. Okay? And then the issues come when how do we decide to calculate these scores? Okay? And what happened on Tinder was that they were talking a lot about performance. And how does this performance works? Well, you receive a number of likes every time your profile is presented to others, or sometimes they call it votes, basically. People are voting on you. Are you attractive or not all the time? And this creates a scores. We talk also about recommendation systems in computer science, and also in the public speech, for example. You have it also on newspapers, right? And it's the same on dating apps. We want to recommend you somebody that is similar to you. We're going to talk about this, but the idea is that recommendation systems here are very particular because we want to recommend a human to another human. So it's what we call reciprocated systems. We're not saying, look, take this book, read it, it's nice for you. No, wait. Is this person also liking you? The qualities are common. Can you spend a good time together or not? It's more complex. Then we have other algorithms that are used for facial recognition. And this is in many other apps, but the thing is that it's entering dating apps to authentify, verify your identity. And now we are also seeing that apps are introducing generative AI. How they're going to use it or so, it's not very clear. Tinder is planning to expand for face photo requirement and use of biometrics for user validation. And think about all this is different type of data that you're giving to an app, right? That you're accumulating on this app. And Tinder is testing new features like AI curated recommendations and friends in common feature. But we don't know yet where it's going. So there's a lot of what we can call an algorithm. What I want to say here, what we know in research is that algorithms have many parameters. They can be computed with different techniques. For example, data mining, reciprocal success in message exchanges, and so on, so on. We lack transparency about algorithms, but we know there are a lot of techniques that are used for algorithms. And what it happens is that it evolves constantly, because there's always new data produced, new users registering, other users leaving. So it's very complex to grasp what is happening in there behind to make your matches possible. What I saw on Tinder is that the way they compute scores is that they consider sex asymmetry for favoring a patriarchal model. What does that mean? They choose the sex variable, women or men, and they say if a man is introduced to younger women, they have a higher score. And if the women are with a lower education level, socioeconomic level, they have a higher score. And it's not the same for the other way around. So that's why it's a patriarchal model favoring that older men date younger women from a different lower status. This can be seen also in social life. If you see statistics on demographics, we still have this patriarchal model, right? But we also know there's much more diversity now. And that it's not a single model that is in society, that in the society we want to live today. And we are progressing a lot on seeing another models. So when Tinder decides that this is the majority likes this model, when they code it, then they are favoring this model, so it keeps repeating itself for all the new users. And that's why, even if sometimes we talk about biases, social biases, gender biases, and even if we have them in society, they are not as problematic as when we find them on dating apps, because dating apps are looking for making profits. So they take the majority of the population. That's why they go always towards heteronormativity, because it's the biggest pool of users on the dating apps. So when they code this, hard-coded on the algorithms, we're going to reproduce, and reproduce again this patriarchal model. It means, a new young woman registers on the app, let's introduce her directly to an older man, because it's more probable that she would like. But it's not true. So this is problematic. Another point is that similarity is favored. It means if you're a student, we're going to put you with students. If you're of it also, what else did I see? If the geolocation helps a lot to say if you're in this neighborhood, it means that you're of this social class. So we're going to put you with similar people. So similarity, homophily in sociology, as we call it, it's favored there, but we know again that diversity exists, that the social world is more different than this and more complex than this. Take away, there are design choices behind algorithmic systems that will shape your dating experiences. These choices often respond to a business model. And I have seen it in my interviews with developers. Men pay more often the services on dating apps, so we shaped the technology towards men that are paying because they are more profitable users, right? Algorithms constantly evolve, so I propose to shift away our attention from algorithms to data, because data can tell us more about how we're directly affected by these systems. We can consider online dating as socio-technical systems. I think it's more accurate. There are humans, users, developers, marketing, business managers, investors. There are systems, mathematical formulas, techniques, business models, and there is a specific sample delimited in your locality. But personal data can be under your control. And we're going to show you what it can do for you. After you recover your data, let's say you come back home or tomorrow or later this evening, you received a copy of your data on your emails. Somebody did the whole process? Yeah, it worked? Okay, great. So often you receive a zip file on your email. And what happens next is that you go again to DigiPower Academy. You select the app you recover your data from, and you upload your file there. As I said, we don't store the data. It's only on your local browser. So you upload your file there, and you can start to analyze your data. Because what happens is when companies give you your data, sometimes you don't have the tools for reading it, or sometimes it's too technical, we don't have the skills or whatever. So we created this tool so you can analyze the data that is in the file. For Tinder, you can know how many likes and passes. We call it passes because they call it like that in the data. So rejections that you got in the app. You can also see the ratio of how many times you opened the app and how many times you gave likes. Meaning, for me, it was this very impressive to see how they account for how many times you open the app and come back to the app. Okay. There are other functions, like you can check your matches. On Her is actually they give a lot of data also. Some other statistics can be found there. For example, on every day, how many times you have given likes. So you can see per month how intense is your activity on Her. You can also see if you match or not, in which days of the week. This is another visualization. You can see it by month, by year, and so. And you can also see the messages, the quantity, the frequency, the intensity of your messages. So according to the color, you can see darker is that you have sent more message, I don't know, at 9 p.m. And, or how many you received also. You can also evaluate how effective are your messages. But beyond knowing about your activity is also knowing what they know about you and what they are using to match you or to make you recommendations on their systems. It means they are tracking your message activities. It means that they are understanding who you like, but who likes you back also. And for us, exercising your rights is very important because it's the first visibility you have on the data they are collecting and how the system works in a more objective way. Because, of course, we always get insights of how, using it daily, how it works more or less, right? These are also the profiles that are reported on the app. And I'm going to stop there so Jacob shows you more interesting stuff. This is just a last study that I will let you hear. Melvin and Rosie studied queer identities on Tinder and Her, and they found on both apps, both algorithms increase the visibility of queer women with long hair, and on users actually also preferred more queer women with long hair. So it's to say we still see these stereotypes that are in society amplified by apps because the algorithms are learning from it and exacerbating them. So let's jump to her case study.
Are we out of time?
Well, yeah.
Is-
the lunch is coming close.
Okay, this is the last part. Yeah. And how are you feeling? Are you too hungry? Yeah, like that's the most important. Okay.
Okay, well, I won't be too long. I know better than to stand between lunch. So earlier this week, I did a technical analysis of Her on my own account, and I wanted to talk you through it as a case study of the kinds of data that these apps have about you, but you won't see in the analyses that we had on the previous slides. So first, a background. In Article 9 of the GDPR, it's prohibited to process data that relates to people's sex life or sexual orientation. It's prohibited by default, and companies have to have specific reasons to later process it. And so that puts some of these apps in a tricky situation because if they share that sort of data with advertisers, they can get in trouble. But something interesting about an app like Her is that because of how it's marketed and just the knowledge that somebody is using this app is itself Article 9 GDPR data. So that's something to consider going on later. It's something to consider about Her that might not be the case for something like Tinder, where it's not as explicit your sexual orientation just because you're using Tinder. That's my Her account on the far left. And so what I did is I drew a little box around my phone and I tracked the data going in and out while I was using the app to Her and back. I didn't break into any of Her systems. I just looked at the data that was leaving and entering my phone. So my first finding is that when you first open up the app, you're presented with this login screen. So Her doesn't even know if you have an account yet, and it's already sending data to Facebook. So on the right, you can here's an example of what is being sent to Facebook before you've even logged in. I've highlighted two things here. The advertiser ID, I'm using an Android phone. That's the unique identifier assigned to your phone that's shared with many different apps. And then on the bottom, you can see com.weareher.her. That tells Facebook the app you're using, that you're using Her. So this already contains Article 9 GDPR data because, one, it contains information about my sexual orientation, and two, it's associated with a unique identifier. Well, what's interesting about this is if you look at all of those other lines, those contain other unique identifiers also. I don't know what an anon ID is, but it's clearly some sort of unique identifier. You have this thing called extra info, EXT info. I'm assuming that's what EXT stands for. And that forms something called a fingerprint. So that has like the version of the app I'm using. If there was more to this picture, you would see the kind of phone I'm using. And that's a very common practice for different kinds of apps to gather all these little pieces of data and build a fingerprint. That happens on your laptop also. So already this is a violation, but let's move forward a little bit and talk about deceptive design patterns. Everyone's seen a cookie banner that says, do you want to accept cookies? Yes. Hell yes. And then at the bottom it says, no. That's not just annoying, that's also actually a violation of the GDPR because it's a violation of the principles such as transparency and data minimization. So the European Data Protection Board actually has an outline of when these things are violations. And as you can see, when you make your Her account, it says, yes, I want to see relevant ads, and no, show me less relevant ads. So one, clearly just from the colors on that design, that's a deceptive design pattern. It's also a deceptive design to use emotional steering. So acting like you're harming yourself by having less relevant ads. That's a violation. And over here you have a privacy maze because even if you click don't consent, you still have to go through and manually unclick about 100 different little switches to opt out of everything. But I'm a pedant, I care about you people, so I went through this process and I navigated the privacy maze and I logged in and I withdrew my consent. So let's see what data Her sends to Facebook when I've not consented. It should be nothing, right? Well, now you can see it's the same data. The only thing that's missing is the unique Android ID, right? But that fingerprint is still there. Those other unique identifiers are still there. And if you think about it, that means that consent switch did nothing because this data is still being sent to Facebook without my knowledge. And Facebook already has these unique IDs associated to my Android phone. So all of this stuff can just be put in a database reconnected to what they already have. So the takeaways of this is that many apps collect data in ways that are not obvious to you, but you can ask for this data when you make data subject access requests. So when you get this data back from Her that you requested earlier today, you can follow up with an email saying, excuse me, none of my advertising data was in here. I would like a copy of every piece of data that you sent to advertisers associated with me. And legally they have to give that to you. Annoying pop-ups aren't just annoying, they're actual violations of the law many times. And sometimes just the knowledge that someone is using an app targeting a specific demographic is data that already has special protections. And you can consider that when you're using your data subject rights. Thank you.
maybe there are questions also from the audience. I see a question there.
Thank you. That was very interesting in many ways. I actually have a question really about the last part. I was wondering if it's the same for iOS, considering that Apple has this transparency and consent framework. So do they also send the Apple ID, or?
I was not able to test that. So the answer is I don't know. I would suspect there's something similar, but because it's not done by Apple, it's done by the developers of the application. So.
The difference with iOS, because there's this activist process called Technopolis, and they do a lot of work on like protecting your data. So this is visualizing your data, but there are also a lot of ways you can, of course, isolate apps on your phone through sandboxes and different ways so that apps don't interconnect on your smartphone. But in that case, for example, Android is way better because you can install open source software, but on iOS it's not possible. So there are like, sometimes we think Apple has better privacy laws, but it's also way more difficult to really install very private things on iOS because they don't have the same open source capacities as Android has. So it's a bit of an in-between.
I just had a question, it might be silly, but because you're saying they're sending your data to advertisers, in this case Facebook, you were using Facebook instead of Meta, so what if you don't have a Facebook account? Does it still, what is it connecting it to then?
The answer is yes. I don't have a Facebook account, and I use Facebook because it's sending it to graph.facebook.com. It is still Meta. I also just don't like using Meta because I think they changed the name to make it hard to talk about. I would call it Face Mash if I could, but sorry. No, so what they're sending it to is this sort of graph.facebook.com is the tools that perhaps Her is using on the back end to track people, and it's sort of a symbiotic relationship where Facebook and Her then access this data for the tools. It's similar to like Google DoubleClick or something, where Facebook tracks you in many different places and then centralizes it. So it has nothing to do with your Facebook account. Yeah. Because
what you saw there was that you didn't even register. And it was already been sent the data, so. And when I registered with my phone. I didn't log in with a Facebook account. So, for example, if you open another app on your phone, like you were saying, the apps will communicate with each other or something like that. Another app might also be using Facebook's code or have a Facebook pixel in there. And we'll be sending data also to graph.facebook.com. And because both of those apps have access to the same Android identifier, Facebook can then reconnect those things on the other end. Somebody correct me if you think that I'm describing that incorrectly, but yeah.
Any other questions?
It's not inescapable. I think it's important to say because, of course, it's shocking seeing your data, but there are a lot of ways you can defend your... there are a lot of digital tools that also have been developed going against this narrative through open source mostly, that are also possible to apply on your phone to protect your privacy generally. I think it's important to... And it's really out there. Like, look at it. It takes 1 hour maybe, and you can already protect 80% of your data on your phone if you apply certain protocols, which is, I think, very important to do. If you still use those apps in general. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Maybe we didn't want to sound too apocalyptic. No. There are solutions, alternatives, operating systems for your phones. On Personal Data I/O, we have a page, alternatives, that you can check. Our workshop is more like, look, first let's gain visibility, because sometimes we already know about it, but we haven't seen it.
And we think visibility, transparency can help us to find these alternatives together, to build new actions, collective actions. We believe collective actions can really change this. Imagine if we all put our data together. Then we can, I don't know, think about the city, how to improve the cycling ways, right? If we have the geolocation of everybody in this room. So seeing this and having it now in our hands or in our phones, we can think about even other alternatives.
Another benefit of it is that just like you have the right to access your data, you have the right to request that it be deleted. But these companies won't delete it even unless you ask specifically for it to be deleted. But if they're not transparent that they have it, then you can't ask for it to be deleted. So when I'm showing the data about Facebook, it's not because I feel fatalistic about it. It's because if everyone wrote a request like that and combined it, and one of us had Facebook data, but the other ones didn't, then we all know that we should be requesting that Facebook data be deleted or something like that. Everyone shines a little flashlight on the larger picture.
Yeah, definitely. So this was our collective dating privacy that we are trying actually to pull together dating apps data and figure out what we can do to improve it. So if you want to join, this is our email address and our websites, everything, our wiki is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.